We're here with Managing Director Dr. Rob Crombie. Rob, welcome.
Thank you.
Rob, your company is in the process of acquiring its second US-based oncology company this year. This company is Aktivate Therapeutics. What will this acquisition mean for investors?
I think it's transformational. I think that it brings a second program into the company. We have now 2 mid-stage clinical programs running with 2 separate INDs with the US FDA and 5 clinical indications, so 5 clinical trials in different indications. So it gives us what I say is multiple shots on goal. It means that we've got several programs running, and if one of the programs should fail, then we have backups to that. And these are programs that are with some of the best clinical centres in the States, so it's exciting times.
The centrepiece of this Aktivate Therapeutics acquisition is, of course, the novel cancer compound TCNP. Now, what is that and how does it work?
TCNP is a small molecule and it targets a pathway called AKT. And the AKT pathway is actually like a master switch for cancer. It's actually the pathway that's most commonly altered in cancer. So it's a fundamental pathway, and it's a pathway, in fact, that large pharma have been interested in for some time. So we are keen to actually develop a drug in this area. And AKT, in a sort of non-technical way, AKT is basically controlling the cells and the way that the cells grow. And so cancer is all about when a cell goes out of control. So AKT comes in and it blocks that out of control growth of the cancer cell, and it brings it back into control, and it actually kills the cell.
And it's showing great promise in a range of cancers, but including some very prominent cancers.
There's a lot of work that's already been done with patients with TCNP. It's been in 100 patients already. So we know the way that this drug acts, we know the mechanism of action, and we know that it's relatively safe in patients. We already have a breast cancer trial running. We have just started, in a matter of days ago, an ovarian cancer trial. And of course, we are also looking at a leukemia trial as part of this acquisition. So the possibilities are beyond that as well. In time, I think we have enough in our hands right now, but in time we could certainly look to look at other indications for this drug.
But these are all cancers with a large unmet need. There is a desperate need for new therapies to work alongside existing treatments.
Absolutely. So what's fundamentally the problem with cancer treatment at the moment is that cancers become resistant to the frontline therapies. So in a large proportion of patients, they're left with no other therapy and no other therapy choice. Our drug has been shown in preclinical studies to actually break that resistance to the chemotherapy drug. And so it works in synergy with the frontline therapies. And so we're excited about the prospects.
Now, this is a predominantly scrip deal. Can you outline the terms of the acquisition?
The way that we've structured this deal is similar to the way that we structured the Pathway Oncology deal. It is some 234 million shares of scrip. But that's broken down into an upfront payment of scrip of 134 million and a further 100 million on the back of clinical success. What's important about that is that means that we're not giving away a large amount of scrip without seeing some benefit in the clinic of the product. And I think that's very important. It means that our shareholders know that this is a success-driven deal. So I think that the other aspect, of course, is that because it's largely scrip, it means that we are actually maintaining the cash that we've raised to the clinical development programs that we've got.
Why do you say the Aktivate acquisition is largely de-risked?
Yeah, that's really because, firstly, these are clinical products. So we're not going through the research process. So we're actually skipping all the research, and that's where I think a lot of companies spend an awful lot of time in the lab, at the bench, trying to develop drugs. We've actually fast forward and fast tracked that process into the clinic. So we're buying these programs that are clinical programs. Not only that, these are got active INDs. These drugs are actually are being administered to patients as we speak. So the breast program, the breast cancer trial, is recruiting at the Montefiore Center in New York. And we've just started, a matter of days ago, we've just started the ovarian trial. at the Lee Moffett in Florida. Also, because these programs are actually funded by government grants, these government grants are from the NCI, the National Cancer Institute in America, and also the US Department of Defense that's funding our ovarian cancer trial. So from a financial perspective, we've already got these are largely funded programs. If we want to expand on the recruitment, then of course we have the option of accelerating that development.
When would you expect headline data from one or any of these trials? As you say, you've got breast cancer recruiting, ovarian cancer very soon to recruit, and leukemia starting early next year. There's a lot happening. When will we start to see the first results emerging from these important studies?
So I think the first results that we'll see, and I suppose results meaning the sort of efficacy of the drug, we're going to do an interim analysis on the breast cancer trial that with TSNP. But what's important to actually important to note is that the news flow over the next 18 months is pretty full. As you can imagine, with 5 clinical trials running currently with the acquisition of Aktivate, then there's not going to be a shortage of news flow.
And what do you expect will be the next big inflection points for investors? What should they be looking out for from this vantage point?
Look, we see that this is a transformational deal. This changes the company fundamentally, and investors will start to see the programs taking shape over the next few months. I've been in the job 3 months. In that short 3 months, we've changed the company quite radically. I see that this is a fast track to developing these drugs in clinic. And of course, ultimately, the major value inflection point is seeing that these drugs work in patients.
So this is not a sort of long-term proposition. If you're in mid-stage clinical trial, you'd expect some milestones to be achieved, all going well with the efficacy of the drug, in the next sort of 18 months, 2 years.
Absolutely.
Is that fair enough?
Absolutely. I mean, our plan here is with these drugs is to develop them over the next couple of years and then line them up for big pharma licensing. And that's an area that I'm quite comfortable with. So
you would potentially line them up for big pharma prior to phase 3, or would you look?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the for us, we're quite realistic about where we're at. And the phase 3s require large amounts of cash, and I think with the partners that we have, and of course, remember these are adjunct therapies. That means they're add-ons to the frontline therapies, and the frontline therapies are the therapies that pharma companies are developing. So I have no doubt that if we show, as we expect, that our drugs work in combination with those, that we'll have large pharma interest.
How does Aktivate and TCNP fit into the existing portfolio?
It's perfect. I mean, I think that it's a perfect combination. In fact, these drugs may actually work in combination with each other.
TCNP basically stops cancer in one of its pathways, and GGTI 2418 also stops cancer, but on a different road.
Pathway, exactly. So it's the way I think that cancer, people understand cancer now, is that you cannot cure cancer with a single drug. Cancer is a multi-step process. It's multiple pathways that are being disrupted. And so we've recognized that that's the approach that we need to take. And that's a combination therapy. And it's a combination therapy. What's also exciting, and we haven't spoken about that, is that these drugs come with biomarkers. And not to get too technical, but that means that it gives us a chance of actually potentially, in the long run, actually determining the patients that will best respond to our drugs. And that actually, I think that's the holy grail of cancer.
What is the company's cash position at the moment?
We're around about 3.5 million, I think, in the bank at the moment. It does mean, of course, that we will have to go to the market, to raise more money at the start of next year. So we're looking around about the March timeframe to go to the market and raise more capital.
Via what mechanism do you imagine raising that capital?
Look, we're looking at a number of different avenues. I think that it's probably fair to say that we're still in the process of working through that. But what I can say is that we've already spoken to a number of key investors There's interest out there. There's certainly, I think, when we announced the Activate announcement in terms of the acquisition, that fundamentally transforms us into a company that's not only of interest to Australian investors, but also to investors overseas. And it's not surprising that I've already been out and talked to investors overseas, and there's excitement.
You say the 2 lead trials of TCNP are fully funded by US government authorities. What about GGTI studies? Is that what this capital that you'll raise early next year will fund? Can you?
That's absolutely right. Largely that, and of course, as I said earlier, if these are largely funded with the recruitment rates that we are getting at the moment. With cancer, often you want to accelerate the recruitment of the patients, and that means opening up multiple sites. And so therefore, that is what we would back further cash into running the TCNP trials at a faster rate.
Final message for investors.
I think now is the time to come on board. This is an exciting company. It's unique in the ASX listed marketplace. I mean, there is no other company that has, I think, the pipeline of products that we have and the direction of treating cancer that we have. So we're at the cutting edge of novel, first-in-class, small molecule therapies that will be combination therapies to treat a range of unmet medical need cancers. The only company that I know has a comparable number of clinical trials running at once currently is Mesoblast, and Mesoblast has a market cap of $1.3 billion.
Your share price is low at the moment. If you start kicking goals on all these programs, you would definitely expect a re-rating in the short to medium term.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what we're aiming for. And I think the last few months has been a process of building the foundations of the company. So I've been busy working on changing the structure of the company, both at the team level and also at the asset level. And now it's the time to go out and tell investors about the company. Shareholders will hopefully vote and back the Activate acquisition. And then it's the time to really start showing that we set out clear milestones and we deliver on those milestones.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.